I'm Jyotilal. Welcome again to my chess blog. In today's episode, we are going to examine a game between the famous Georgian grandmaster, trainer, theoretician Zurabas Parashvili against the present world champion Magnus Carlsen. This game was played in 2005, well before Magnus Carlsen became the world champion, and was played in the FIDE World Cup. So if you look at the position, it's quite an endgame position. And we know Magnus today is one of the best endgame experts in the world. So let's go to the position here. Now white has got a bishop against knight, and he's threatening to invade the 7th rank with rook e7 at some point. It may not be immediately. And if you look at the endgame, in this position, you can easily understand that there is an imbalance. So white has majority on the king side 3 versus 2, black has got it on the queen side 3 versus 2. And here white has got a bishop, black has got a knight. That means in the endgame, a bishop is usually considered better or superior to a knight because it has got play on both sides and can play on both sides simultaneously. And this is especially useful when there are pawns on both sides. The next point when you play an endgame is about the kings, the position of the kings. Usually, the king that is closer to the center is considered to be better. Here, the white's king, you can see, is closer to the center. Basically, what do you mean by the king closer to the center? What exactly the king is going to do in an endgame? In endgame, the king has got dual role. That is, the king works well with the pawns. That is the most important point to understand. It means that your king can work with your own pawns, and if given a chance, can work against the opposing pawns. That means your king's first task is to create a pass pawn from your pawn majority or your pawns and help to advance or shield this pawn to the opponent's area so that you can advance and create more problems. So the king's task is pretty defined. A king works well with the pawn means it should work with your own pawns, creating a pass pawn and helping this pawn to advance. The next task of the king is to infiltrate into the opponent's pawn structure to attack and destroy the opponent's pawn structure. That's why this said that the king has got dual role. This is the task that we normally assign to a king. Now in this position, white can think of a pass pawn because pass pawns are considered as very good assets in any endgame. So usually players try to create pass pawns from their respective majorities. In this case, white will try to create one pass pawn on the king side, and black will try to do so on the queen side. So the battle lines are clearly drawn here, and white has a slight edge thanks to his bishop against black's knight. Everything else seems to be more or less equal. In this position, white obviously played king c2, and most likely he's planning to place his rook on e7. So Carlsen stopped this with rook e8. And now after this exchange, it is now very clear bishop is against the knight. So king plus bishop against king plus knight, with white having majority on the king side, black has got it on the queen side. So the first task of the white's king is to attack the black's pawns on the queen side. If possible, neutralize the black's pawns on the queen side. So as Parashvili played the king to c3, he's threatening to win the black's pawn on c5 with king c4. So black has got two plans. Either he can play in c7 or even b5. b5 means it's a move designed to prevent the white's king. So now white can try b4. The plan or the point behind this is that if this is not going to be taken because then it is clearly very difficult because the infiltration is about to happen here and the pawns will be destroyed. So if this pawn is pushed here, then bishop into c4, pawn into c4, king into c4. Let us see what is going to happen here. Now if we take stock of the situation, you can find that white has sacrificed his bishop and is about to capture the pawn on e6. That means white will have two connected pass pawns on the queen side and has a chance to create one pass pawn on the king side. After exchange of 3 versus 2, one pawn will remain there, and that will be a pass pawn. So black will have to defend against the white's connected pass pawns on the queen side with his king and knight. At the same time, we'll have to deal with white's pass pawn on the king side, single pass pawn on the king side. So after king g7, a4, I mean this is a plausible variation. King f6, king c5, king e7, and king b6, king d6, king into a6, king c7, b5, and d6, and now f4. If h5 to stop further advance, then g3, followed by at some point h3 and g4. And on the queen side, he will start pushing these pawns. That means this position is now absolutely superior for the white side. Probably this is the reason why Carlsen avoided this. Instead, he played nc7 instead of b5. So let's go back and see. He played nc7 here. And now white played king c4. Threat is king into c5. The only move is here is b6. And now comes a4. And Carlsen is forced to play a5, otherwise white will play a5. So, and this pawns will be destroyed. So a5. With this a5, black's a5, the black's majority on the queen side has now been completely compromised. So black has no chance of creating a pass pawn on the queen side. It is clear. Now white's plan is pretty clear. He will come to the king side because he now has the majority on the king side from where he can create a pass pawn. So let us see what happened in this game. After a5, white immediately played f4, indicating that it's about to create a pass pawn on the king side. So it's planning at least to create one on the king side. So after king f4, king g7, g4. And this is another point to understand when you're playing an endgame, superior endgame, especially. You should always try to advance your pawns to grab more and more space. When you grab more and more space, it will you can excuse the opponent. You can make the opponent suffocate for want of space, and this will create more problems for the opponent. And also, in such positions, it is advised that the inferior side, in this case, black Carlsen, should refrain from pushing pawns because that will create fresh weaknesses or add to his existing weaknesses. So here, after f4, king g7, g4, black played king f6. Now, white played h4. And now white has a clear plan. At some point, he will fix these pawns, and these pawns most likely will become a target for this bishop. And one of the black's pieces, especially the king, will be forced to remain with the king side pawns, thereby limiting the maneuverability of the black's pieces. So after h4, black played h6. Now this creates a fresh problem because this pawn, the g6 pawn, will now be fixed at some point. And black cannot avoid this because if black tries to push this pawn, say to g5 at some point, he will be providing white with a ready-made passer on the f5 because or h5. He can take on g5 once and then push the other pawn so that the pawn will become a pass pawn. So black is in the fix now. What to do? Because his pawn on g6 is going to be fixed, and that will remain as a permanent target for this bishop. So now white played bishop e4. Actually, he can play g5 immediately, but no need to hurry because in the end game, when you're playing a superior game, it's always better to follow the policy of do not hurry. Okay, so after bishop e4, king g7, bishop c6. Actually, bishop b1, there are lots of moves possible because white need not hurry because he has a lot of moves at his disposal because black is helpless basically. So after bishop c6, king f6, bishop f3, king e6, bishop e4, king forced to go back. Once again, bishop c6. Even actually, he could have played g5, fixing the pawn g6 immediately, and that's also winning. King e6. And we can see black is basically helpless. King d3. White is now cleverly moving the king to the other side. As I said in the beginning, white has achieved what he's expected to do with his king on the queen side. He has completely made the black's queen side majority useless. And now he's shifting his focus to the king side to create a pass pawn, or we'll see what is going to happen here, because king can even now the king can be used against the queen side pawns if given a chance to penetrate into the black's position. So after king d3, king e7, king e3, king e6, bishop e4, king f6, g5. Now taking on g5 is basically pointless. So king g7, bishop d3. The point is very clear. King wants to penetrate. So n d5, king e4, knight b4, and now bishop is dropped here. You can see the bishop is controlling almost all important squares of this knight. The knight has no rails, but now the king is about, white king is about to penetrate on d5 from there to d6 and over the queen side. So h into g5, h into g5, king f8. Now we see this pawn is a target, and the black king is forced to remain on this side. So king f7. Now bishop e4. This completely takes away all the squares of this knight. Now, if c4 is played, I don't think it's going to help, but it's a try. Maybe bishop check, and it is lost. No chance here. It could have been a better idea, better try here. Anyway, he played king g7. Carlsen, I think, has lost all the hopes in the position. And now with king d6, white is totally winning. And c4, king c7, knight a2. And after king b6, Carlsen resigned. I hope you have enjoyed this game, where you have seen the beautiful display of sublime endgame technique by Grandmaster Surabas Paparashvili. And also hope that one day you will be able to apply similar techniques in your own games to score points. With that, I wind up this video. Thank you. Thank you very much.